Hi again, Intro to Criminal Justice Students CJ 1100. This is Dr. Robinson. This is your first video after the welcome video about actual material. Now, here's how this is going to work for the semester. I'll be posting a video a week, sometimes two, depending upon the topics, and you can watch these at your convenience, okay? Now, I encourage you to watch these early so that you can do your assignment before it's due. Remember, all of your assignments, whether the writing assignments or forums, are going to be due excuse me, on Fridays, but you have your test on Friday, so the sooner you do these, the better. Also, here's what you should do is go through your PowerPoint slideshows before you watch the video, and when the videos pertain directly to the PowerPoint slideshows, you can watch them at the same time. You can open the PowerPoint slideshow and watch the video at that time as well. That might help you as well. This video is just a quick introduction to some of the key terms. All right. So the first one we're going to talk about is justice, and it's going to pertain to particular schools of thought or theories of justice that I teach about in my Honors 1515 class, Justice Theory and Practice. I've written extensively about this as well. So if you're interested in this, let me know. I can send you a couple articles I've written about this, where I use these theories of justice to assess different practices in the United States to see if they're just. But here's what I want you to think about to begin with. What does justice mean to you? You probably have a different definition than a lot of people. But, think about like when someone harms you. Sometimes you want justice, right? Someone hurts you in whatever way. You're a crime victim. You get cheated on. Someone does you wrong. Someone talks about your mom, whatever. You want justice. So what does that mean? Or Michael Sandel is a professor at Harvard University who has a whole course about justice, which you can, by the way, watch online if you're interested. It's really good stuff. It's like 1,000 students in an auditorium. But he wrote a book called Justice, What's the Right Thing to Do? So what justice really comes down to is what's the right thing to do in a society. Now, you're going to start off by reading the Declaration of Independence online, as well as the U.S. Constitution. And you're familiar with some of the key terms there. But you'll look at these quickly to do your writing assignment, just to remind you of stuff you learned about probably in high school civics or your American government class. The Declaration of Independence declared our independence from Great Britain. It listed a series of wrongs by the King of England. And then it said that we're going to establish a new country for certain reasons. And those reasons relate to justice. Then we had the Articles of Confederation for the colonies as the original Constitution, but that was defective for various reasons. And so a U.S. Constitution was needed to establish the government and to set up our government, to establish what all the different branches of government will do. And it also granted you certain rights. So justice is what the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution are all about. And what you'll see is the schools of thought are actually found in those documents. The schools of thought, or the theories of justice that I'm going to talk about, are actually found in those documents. Okay, so here are the main schools of thought or justice. The first is called utilitarianism. Now, utilitarianism, the root word is utility, basically means happiness. So this is a term that you'll see in those documents, our founding documents. People want to be happy. People want to be well-being, general welfare. And so, as a democracy or a democratic republic, we like to think about majority rule. So if something brings about benefits and happiness to a majority of the population, then we tend to view that as just. So that's what utilitarians evaluate a policy as: does it achieve happiness? Does it achieve benefit for the majority of the people? If so, it would be considered just according to utilitarians. However, we do have minority groups in the United States that also have rights as citizens and as human beings. And one of the rights that they value is liberty. Okay, so libertarians, another school of thought, libertarianism, believes something is just if it protects and respects your liberty. Something is unjust if it restricts it. Okay, now these things can contradict each other, right? Something can provide a benefit for the majority of people in the country, but violate the rights of a small minority or the liberty of that minority. So then what's the right thing to do? We try to balance this in the United States. We try to balance the rights of the majority with the rights of the minority. And that's difficult sometimes. So take the coronavirus as an example. We have people who are upset about the restrictions on their freedom of movement, liberty. We have people who are upset about being forced to wear masks as a restriction of their liberty. But it's sort of like having to wear a seatbelt. It's for the benefit of everyone. Or having to wear a helmet when you're riding a bike or a motorcycle. It's for the benefit of everyone. And specifically in those cases, if you don't wear a seatbelt or a helmet and you get injured, then everybody's insurance rates go up. So it actually harms other people. So we make these restrictions on our liberties for the benefit of the public good and for the benefit of other people. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to agree with it. It just, that's the rationale for it. Okay, so you have utilitarianism, you have libertarianism. Both of these are in the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution. Now, in an extreme libertarian society, so economic libertarianism, where the government is not involved in anything, and people have the right to pursue wealth without any restrictions from the government, you inevitably have vast inequalities develop. And here's why. Some people are smarter. Some people are more hardworking. Some people have connections. Some people don't. And so some people are going to be far more successful in terms of achieving wealth and money. So you get vast inequalities, where that's where egalitarianism comes in. Egalitarianism, the root word is equality. The idea is that the country should be equal. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to have equal outcomes like socialism or communism. It means that everyone should have the same opportunity for success, that if you have the talent and you have the skills and you have the knowledge, you should have the opportunities to any kind of job or benefit in the society. Well, equality is a big part of the Declaration of Independence in the U.S. Constitution. There's an extensive discussion of equality of rights. For example, the Bill of Rights applies to everyone. And so we also, egalitarians would say something is unjust if it leads to unequal outcomes or if it diminishes people's equal rights. So far we have three schools. Utilitarians believe in the greatest benefit for the greatest number, right? Majority rule. Libertarians believe in liberty, freedom, rights. And egalitarians insist those rights be equal and that everyone have the same equal opportunity in society. All of these things are in the Constitution, and all of them are in the Declaration of Independence. Now, you might emphasize one over the other. So as a libertarian, you might have a fight or an argument with an egalitarian, but you're both actually arguing from a fundamental American perspective. You're both correct in that your viewpoint is reflected in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Now, the other part of justice is the virtue-based approach. What about morality, right? What about just doing the right thing? So think about if you're religious, your religion specifies certain moral values, right? Thou shalt not kill, for example, thou shalt not commit adultery, these kinds of things. Whatever your religion, you're going to have these kinds of values that suggest certain things are unjust if they violate your morality. Well, as you can imagine, your sense of morality is vastly different from another person's. So, for example, you might favor marriage equality, or you might be against gay marriage based on your morality. Well, who's right? This is one of the problems with virtue-based theories. People disagree. And so we have to learn to live with each other in a pluralist, diverse society where people disagree. We have to be willing to make sacrifices based on people's liberties, based on concerns of equality, treating everyone the same. Everyone should have the same rights. And overall happiness in society as well. That's utilitarianism. So utilitarianism is about utility or happiness for the majority. Libertarianism is about liberty or freedom. Egalitarianism is about equality, equal opportunities, equal rights. And virtue-based theories are about doing the right thing based on your sense of morality. All of these in some way are found in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, suggesting that all of these are important to Americans. Okay? Now, real quickly, let me just point out, the rights that are granted to you in the Constitution were not meant to be applied to women, were not meant to be applied to African Americans or Latinos, were not meant to be applied to children, right? The Constitution was written by rich old white slave owners. But the genius of the system is they wrote a document that over time, those rights were extended to more and more people as they challenged for those rights, both on the streets through protests and also in the courts is where they ultimately won. So, for example, gay marriage is something that happened during your lifetime. Originally, you weren't even allowed to be gay in America or practice homosexuality. It was a crime. Now you can be gay and be married. That's an extension of the rights. Black people were property. They were slaves. Now they can do anything, including be president. Women could not vote. Now they can vote and hold any office in our country, although we, of course, still haven't had a female president for some reason. But the point is, these are rights that have been extended to more and more people. So we obviously believe in liberty. We believe in equality. We believe in equal rights. And so anything that challenges or threatens those values is considered unjust. Okay? Anything that protects them is considered just. So that's what justice fundamentally means. Liberty, happiness, equality, morality. That's what it means. Okay? Even though sometimes these things conflict, we all hold these things dear. Now, you're going to be asked what justice means to you, and you're going to look for these terms in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. You'll see some key terms that are related to all of the things that I just mentioned, okay? So you'll be asked to lay out what you think is just and why in your assignment. Now, before we end this brief video, this is a class called Intro to Criminal Justice. So criminal justice is a type of justice, just as is juvenile justice. So what's the difference? Criminal justice is the term that we use for the response that society carries out in response to a crime. A crime is committed, it's reported to the police or discovered by the police. The police investigate the crime, apprehend the suspect, book that suspect into jail, take pictures, fingerprints, and then turn the case over to the courts. The prosecutor determines whether they can press charges based on the amount of evidence and the quality of evidence, and which charges to press. And then the courts determine your guilt or innocence. If you're convicted, you're sentenced to some form of punishment or treatment, rehabilitation, depending upon the court, the type of court that you're in. And then the court also protects your rights to make sure that your due process rights are upheld under the 5th and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. The right to trial, the right to a defense attorney, and that sort of thing. The right to be presumed innocent, the right to appeal. If you're convicted, corrections takes over, and corrections is the punishment. Jail, prison, probation, boot camp, house arrest, these kinds of things that we'll talk about in the unit on corrections, okay? That's criminal justice, police, courts, and corrections, to investigate alleged crime, to determine legal guilt, and to carry out punishment. That's what criminal justice is. Now, we use the term criminal justice system to describe police, courts, and corrections in the United States. And in our major, if you decide to major in criminal justice, we have a course on policing, we have a course on courts, we have a course on corrections. We also have a course on the law, because all of this starts with the law. Criminal law defines acts as crimes, specifies the punishments that you can face if you are convicted, and then lays out your rights to be processed through the system. Now, the criminal justice system is for adults. The juvenile justice system is for juveniles. It's for children. North Carolina, that is 16 or younger. It's considered legally a juvenile. And a law passed last year actually raised the age. Your crimes will be handled, alleged crimes will be handled in the juvenile justice system if you're 16 or 17. And 18 is the age of adulthood in the state. Now, unless it's a traffic case, then a 16-year-old, 17-year-old will be handled in the adult court for a traffic case. But other than that, generally speaking, it's handled in the juvenile justice system. Now, historically, the juvenile justice system was different than the criminal justice system. The juvenile justice system is aimed at protecting juveniles, and the court acts in place of the parent. In loco parentis is the term we use for that. Or parens patriae is the philosophy of the court, to act in place of the parent in the interest of the juvenile. And the juvenile court is involved not only in acts of delinquency, which is what we call crimes committed by a juvenile. Delinquent acts are acts that are specific to juveniles. It includes not only things like murder and theft that adults are charged with, but also what are called status offenses. And these are offenses that are unique to juveniles. Running away, talking back, truancy, skipping school. These are things that are unique to juveniles that they can be held in the court for. So the juvenile court handles delinquency cases. It also handles dependent cases and neglect cases by allegedly against parents. It's meant to protect the juvenile. Now, over time, juveniles have gained rights through the courts, the same kind of rights that adults have during a trial. But the purpose is fundamentally different of a juvenile court. Juvenile court is aimed at rehabilitation, treatment, providing for the good of the child, whereas criminal justice is fundamentally aimed at punishment. So we have these different theories of justice. The criminal justice system and the juvenile justice system, in one way or another, are aimed at achieving different types of justice. And we'll talk about those as we go on. But fundamentally, you have, in criminal justice, you have retributive justice, retribution, getting even. Retribution means getting even, an eye for an eye, holding the guilty accountable for the crimes they commit. But you also have a type of justice called procedural justice, which is the procedures of justice that are meant to protect your rights and to make sure that everyone's constitutional rights are protected. Okay? So both of those are important, and as you'll see going on through the semester, it's difficult to do both of those well. The more tough we get on crime for retributive justice, the more we tend to violate the rights of people in the courts, procedural justice. The more we emphasize constitutional protections and rights in procedural justice, the harder it is to hold the guilty accountable, the more likely the guilty are to go free. Okay? So both of these are very difficult, but we fundamentally try to do both, and that's what the scales of justice really represent. Balancing the rights of the state to achieve justice for victims and the rights of the defendant to achieve justice in a court to have their rights protected. We try to do both. That's why the scales are in balance, to represent that kind of balanced interest. Okay, that's a quick rundown of justice. If you're interested in this more and you want more information, contact me. I also encourage you to use your student forum. You guys can talk about this, get help from each other, debate things there as well. That's something I'll be looking at regularly to see what you're doing, what you're saying. If you have a question for me, use the faculty forum and ask me a question. Send me an email. We can also Zoom one-on-one if you'd like, or in a group. Just let me know. And if you'd like to see those articles as well, I'll send those to you. Finally, I'll be adding some links to your website about the North Carolina criminal justice system and the North Carolina juvenile justice system. These will help you not only with this class, but also if you decide to continue on in the major. These will be really useful resources for you going forward. All right, more soon. Keep watching the videos. Let me know if you have any questions. Peace.